It is November 10th, 2021. This is the Daily Rob. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all those good things that help us in the algorithm. And you are always welcome to go and listen to us on all major podcast platforms. Now, without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Rob Smith.
Hello, Stu. I am indeed all of those things and more. How are you today?
I am pretty well. It's been a fairly productive but awesome day. How about you?
Well, good. Stu, every day the Lord gives us is an awesome day. I am out of town, as you can see. I have a Rob is Right speaking engagement. And I'm preparing for it. I expect in an hour or two, this hall will be full of very enthusiastic RIRs, and it's going to be a good time.
That is quite exciting. Might as well be called Rob Mania.
I think it will be. I just hope there's not a riot or anything, Stu. Oftentimes, women want to get a lock of my hair or something like that to take home to the girlfriends and, put it under their pillow so they can sleep at night. Kind of embarrasses me a little bit, but hey, that's the world we live in, Steve.
Damn straight.
Where are you, Steve?
So I am at my house. I'm experimenting with a new kind of setup, so it looks more personal.
Okay. Well, it looks very personal, Stu.
Right on. That was the goal.
Who's your interior decorator who did your drapes?
Myself.
They're very Moulin Rouge.
Yeah, I like that. I like that Spartan blood red. So it's a tough color for me not to find appealing.
Well, you are a redhead.
Yeah. So what news stories are you looking at today?
Well, Stu, I was going to start off with what's going on in Kenosha, Wisconsin with the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. He was a 17-year-old boy who shot a couple folks, killed a couple folks, shot somebody in the arm in self-defense because these Antifa, Black Lives Matter, just crazies chased him down the street, pointed guns at him. Of course, we knew all along, those of us who followed the news, saw the film clippings a year or two ago when all this happened. It's pretty evident everything was in self-defense. But the juries are being threatened, Stu. The judge had to talk about this morning.
It was reported to me by Lieutenant Zerline that this morning at the pickup, there was someone there and was video recording the jury, which the officers approached the person and required him, her, I didn't even ask, to delete the video and return the phone to him. I've instructed that if it happens again, they're to take the phone and bring it here. So that's for your information.
And George Floyd's nephew, Cortez Rice, who, by the way, made a video. By the way, Stu, he has just a superb command of the English language. But he threatened the jurors as well.
I ain't even gonna name the people that I know that's up in the Kenosha trial. But there's cameras in there. Yep. It's definitely cameras up in there, and there's definitely people taking pictures of the juries and everything like that. We know what's going on. So we need the same results, man. We need the same results. Justice for Daunte Wright, justice for all stolen lives. Peace and love. Love y'all.
So that ought to be a mistrial right there, but it's just kind of amazing what the left will do, Stu, and it proves they do not believe in the rule of law. They believe in a bulldozer knocking over everything. In another story, Stu, and I find this totally astounding, Pete Buttigieg, who is our transportation secretary, who went to an Ivy League school. I think he was in the military for a little while, and then he's never done anything in the real world. And he says that a lot of the roads and infrastructure in the United States are racist. You get that, Stu? Bridges and asphalt are racist. And he says that it's because of where they were built. Well, Stu, my head wants to blow up. I've actually built roads before, okay? And you know where you build roads, Stu?
Where
You
people
build
live.
them on, pardon?
Where people live.
Well, where people live, and you build them on a ridge line so that the water falls on both sides. And most all the big roads you see, 95, 85, they're all built on natural roadways to begin with that many have been used for hundreds of years. I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. And the fact that he doesn't understand these things about the way the world works just shows you what kind of complete clowns we have in Washington. I do away with them all, Stu. Third story, Stu, which I think is pretty important, is the Italian Higher Institute of Health came out today and they revised their COVID numbers. They reduced them 97.1%. Just like in the United States, every time somebody dies, whether if they have a trace of COVID in them, it's a COVID death. And we all know that that's ridiculous. Apparently 130,000 people in Italia had been registered as dying of COVID. They revised that to 3,783 people. That's 3,783 as opposed to 130. It's only 2.9% of what it was reported. And these are the people who died strictly of COVID. And they said what we've been reporting for a long time, that usually between 2 and 5 comorbidities for every death. According to the Institute, 65.8% of Italians who died after being infected with COVID were ill with arterial hypertension, that's high blood pressure. 23.5% had dementia, 29.3% had diabetes, 25.8% had arterial fibrillation, 17.4% had lung problems, 16.3% had cancer, and 15.7% had heart issues. And of course, you can have more than one of these things. Mm-hmm. But, because of this, Stu, we closed the whole world down. Many of these people, if they didn't have COVID, would have died of something else. Well, they definitely would have died of something else. We all die, Stu, except for immortal beings like yourself, modern day Thor. But anyway, all right, another story is Gavin Newsom. And I find this just kind of weird for a number of reasons. We talked about this yesterday. And old Gavin boy just hadn't been heard of for 13 days or so. And yesterday, his wife made a kind of a nasty tweet. Y'all leave us alone, blah, blah, blah. He did not go to the health climate confab. That would be like me missing the NCAA Final Four if Virginia was playing still. It's just, but anyway, his excuse today was on Halloween, he had to go trick-or-treating with his children. That's only one night to begin with. So that doesn't seem like a very good excuse, Stu. And apparently, he went to Nancy Pelosi. He went to this chick, Ivy Getty's wedding. She's a billionaireess. Her dead white male family left her with a bunch of money. But for some reason, she's not a white supremacist. I don't understand that. But anyway, she got married at the San Francisco City Hall. And guess who was the priestess who married Ivy and her British kind of girly man looking groom?
I'm almost afraid to ask. Please don't tell me it's Maria Ambrovich.
No. It was Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, that's even worse, maybe.
There are reports that Gavin was there, though they haven't been confirmed. So he went to that. But why hadn't he told anybody where he is? It's just weird. The other thing I think is weird, Stu, if you look at the pictures of the wedding and having Nancy Pelosi there, everything is secular. I mean, to me, marriage is a sacrament of the church, but everything was secular about this. And having Nancy as though she's some sort of a deity because she's, the Speaker of the House is just weird to me, Stu. And the idea that Gavin Newsom had to stay home for Halloween, again, Stu, to me, Halloween is like a pagan Celtic holiday. It's something that's, could be kind of fun, but to place it at the top of all holidays, to me, is another example of how friggin' godless these people are.
It was also a Sunday, so that's your weekend.
Yeah. And so, it's just weird. They're hiding something for sure. But I looked at the pictures of the wedding, and I'm just like, okay.
Didn't Nancy and AOC just all take the plane over to the conference today?
Well, yeah, stuff is still going on.
Yeah.
And Camilla, whatever her name is, if you say it wrong, you're racist. I don't know if you know that, Stu.
Kamala.
Yeah.
Like she's got 4 different ways to say her name, but if you don't say, if you're an enemy of hers or someone who, if you say it, you're automatically a racist, no matter how you say it. Well, she was in Paris today because she had another confab, and she was in like a 22 car parade, all American cars, for the climate summit or whatever the hell it is, with that little beanpole Macron. Again, Stu, I judge people by how easy it would be to beat them up, and Macron would, just a swap across the table like that, he's gone. You probably kill him. The other big news, Stu, and it's probably the biggest news of the day, is inflation year over year from last month. It's up 8.6%. That is just so damaging and detrimental to the economy. But Jen Psaki says it's good. That's what I got for today, Stu.
Right on. Well, my first story is gonna concern Don Lemon. So this case against Don Lemon is just not going away. The bartender who brought it against him seems very
Is this the time you grab that guy in the nuts?
So this is the bartender where Don Lemon puts his hand down his own pants, fiddles around down there, and then brings his hand up and puts it in the guy's face to, I guess, get the aroma of Don Lemon's dick.
I look back and he has his hand in his pants, rubbing himself aggressively, and he shoves his 2 fingers up underneath my mustache, thrusts my head back, and says, "Do you like pussy or dick?" And he said it like 2 or 3 times after that.
Ah, God.
And
They're all perverts, dude.
And so it was, the Don Lemon's offered this guy $500,000. So let's say he's a bartender who makes $50K a year. That's a decade. So he's essentially bribed this guy with a decade's worth of pay just to disappear. But this guy's adamant that what happened was wrong, and this guy probably has done this to other people. Lemon's lawyers say that this guy has a history of hating CNN, which I imagine most people don't feel too positive about CNN. And
Well, that should be irrelevant. In
exactly.
the law, it's, what he did, was it a cause of action, and what are the damages?
Yeah, exactly. And if Don Lemon was so easily provoked that he reacted that way, that's just psychotic. And apparently the bartender offered him a lemon drop mixed drink, kind of making play jest at his name being Don Lemon. And apparently Don Lemon got super offended by that. So it's just really bizarre that some of these people just live in such a world where they get so easily offended by the slightest thing.
Well, they made a career out of being offended. That's why they are where they are today.
So Megyn Kelly and this gentleman had a nice little interview that goes into all the sordid details about that night. And it's definitely.
And there was more to it than just sticking his hand down his pants. And did Don Lemon do some other stuff?
That was where, after that, the bartender just ran out of the establishment.
Yeah.
But there was some more banter back and forth that led up to that. But just kind of, I think this is going to be probably one of those things where we've been talking about it for a little bit, and it finally is going to come to fruition. I mean, there are these like public secrets that we all know, and it just takes years for them to finally get their just desserts. So,
right. It's usually when the media doesn't need the person anymore and can kind of toss him overboard and tell the truth about him.
Yeah.
Stu, if I was a judge, I think what Don Lemon did was obviously wrong and sick, but $500,000 is a lot of money. If I was a judge, I would be a strict constructionist, and I would say, okay, what are really the damages? How were you really hurt? $500,000 worth. Tells me he wants this to go away because there's other stuff out there.
This next story is probably a little bit controversial, very kind of interesting. So Rep Gosser from Arizona, someone I'm not really too familiar with, he posted a tweet today of a anime video where they photoshopped him into it. And this video has been denounced as being a call for violence against Joe Biden and AOC.
I haven't even seen it, and I already know it's BS.
Yeah. And I'm actually very familiar with the anime that it features in it. And the people that get attacked in the intro end up becoming allies later on. And so it doesn't 100% make sense. And it is just incredibly goofy. And it's also being called anti-immigration. And I think it's because Gosser is a fellow who lives in Arizona, and he is just seeing firsthand, what happens when Arizona gets flooded with illegal immigrants. And, and he puts it out at the same time where we're talking about giving $450K to illegal immigrant families. Yet look how, I'm not, as it's known, I'm not the biggest fan of government handouts, but think of the $450K versus what you got from the government as your little stimulus money. It's a fraction of a fraction.
For
So
people
even
who
if you're
aren't
the
even
most,
United States citizens and they came here illegally to begin with, and there was plenty of justification to separate them to begin with. It's the Cloward-Piffen narrative here. Do what you can to destroy America.
yeah. And so I looked at Gosser's record on stuff. I think it's ludicrous that he's anti-marijuana. I think it's a lot of his things are ludicrous. He is kind of in the same vein as Marjorie Taylor Greene, where I feel like he does all these shocking antics to keep his name out there. He might not be a rep next time around, but if we're going to be fair, we can't say that that's violence when Maxine Waters is on a corner giving a speech, being video recorded, at saying, get in people's faces, confront them, this, and this, or being a politician where you give money to a group that actively harasses other politicians. So that would be like anyone in the Hispanic caucus who gave money to Lucha that is going out there and, following cinema into a bathroom. So
how about giving money to BLM while they're out there rioting and destroying cities and killing people? Same with Antifa, or coddling them and not denouncing them. Same thing.
yeah, I mean, one of the narratives during the election was how Kamala was giving money to groups that were bailing people out in Minneapolis. And, there are businesses in Minneapolis.
Some of them
that are
have
just
gone on to kill people too. Way to go, Kamala.
Murderer. But I think we have to be fair about,
Do we have to be fair, Stu? Or are we just fair?
for me, it's one of those things where I know what they're doing, where they are making a big deal out of it. But if we want to really go down this road, I think we can go down this road, and he's going to look like an angel for a goofy ass tweet compared to what some people have essentially helped.
Whole issue here is not to listen to them. I mean, it's just, they're ridiculous, and don't like their ridiculous charges of, deter you from your speech, which is all they're trying to do. They're trying to stop people from speaking, making outrageous allegations that, oh, this is violence, because they can't take any sort of a narrative that is counter to the way they think. So they try to shut down speech.
Yeah. And my last story for today, we're going back to the Middle East, going back to Afghanistan, where the Taliban did military parades of all the equipment that they now have. And so as you look up into one of the corners of this video, you can see all the footage of that military parade. And I'm also including some special footage from a conflict journalist Instagram that I follow, where you can see the Taliban actually walk into an abandoned US military base. You can see all these armored vehicles lined up. They're going to be going through ammo. They're going to be going inside tanks. And it really is astounding that this was allowed to happen. And that 85 billion number that Trump quoted, that has been, fact checked. But the president of Kazakhstan, who's far closer to Afghanistan than we are, he believes that to be an accurate number. And, he has his own thoughts on that and how these weapons are already going on to the black market and how he has intel about that. So it's definitely very interesting where you have the propaganda that the Taliban's putting out of, look at all these things that we now have. Look at us flying the helicopter. They said we couldn't do it. Look at us going down the street, being applauded for this. Look at all of our new ammo, and then arguably the money that they're getting from selling the things that they don't want on the black market. So,
when I went to school in England, the British dons talked about the English Constitution. And what they mean by that, because the Brits don't have a written constitution, but they have convention, which is kind of what they call the Constitution. But when excuse my French, Stu, I'm going to say a bad word here. When the prime minister fucks up, there's a vote of no confidence, or he decides to resign. And that's what should have happened here. There's nothing that Neville Chamberlain or anybody else did that was any worse than what Joe Biden did here. It's disgraceful. It's criminal. And he should have resigned. If we had a government like the Brits did, we would have new elections.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things for me where, we throw around these numbers, 85 billion, but there have been examples where, US sold Stinger missiles were used to shoot down airplanes across the Middle East, and how, we were blamed for that. What are we, if any of these weapons are used to kill anyone, are we going to put a price tag on that life? The principle remains that, we just armed a group that we had been in conflict with, and we essentially gave them major upgrades.
Stu,
And
Alex,
there's no putting a price on it for me. I don't give a crap about the number, whether 85 billion is accurate or not. It's just the principle of it.
well, Stu, I think you've hit something here. The principle of it is, how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as an American, one who has been bestowed all these rights, and you're aware of our history and our special status in the world, unique status in the world, or do you see yourself as just a global citizen? Anybody who thinks the former, the very first thing you think about when you're going to withdraw from Afghanistan is, how do we get our people out, and how do we get all of our equipment out? The fact that this administration made this decision without considering those two most important factors tells you how they think about this country.
Exactly. And to add on to that, then there's the cognitive dissonance of some of the supporters of Biden, where you will hear them be all sad and feeling negative that these women in Afghanistan are going to be oppressed and not get an education. Yet the people who are going to be seemingly their oppressors have just been given arguably hundreds of military vehicles to enforce that with.
Yeah, it's just, you're right, cognitive dissonance. It's an amazing display of ignorance and negligence, and it's a sickness, Stu. It's a sickness.
And to add on to this, so where I get this footage from, half the time they have to use code words to let people know what this is, because if you use the word Taliban on Instagram, it gets flagged for promoting terrorism, when you're just trying to report that, hey,
Terrorism.
look what this is, look what's going on. So it's one of those things where if you see anyone actually doing real life conflict journalism, or grassroots journalism, go out and try to support them however you can, and keep an eye on what they're doing, because in a lot of ways they're at risk for being shut down because they don't have all the fancy lawyers like someone like Don Lemon has access to, where he can put a negative PR thing on him on the back burner for 3+ years.
They're sick motherfuckers.
Yeah, that's all I got for today.
All right, Stu. Well, I thought I would end in continuing our theme for the week of acknowledging martial conflicts and great battles and the heroic people who fought in them. This little speech, Stu, I'm sure you are familiar with it, took place at a place called Agincourt. Yes. Stu, this speech comes to us from Shakespeare, depicting a real live event of the Battle of Agincourt, which occurred in 1415 in the 100 Years' War. England had a foothold in France, and the Brits were really outnumbered considerably, but they won this heroic battle. Their tactics were great. They forced the French into a closed space. The terrain was muddy. The Brits had longbow archers on either side, and they just destroyed the French army. Also, they had so many prisoners that, fearing another French counterattack, they killed a bunch of them. Anyway, here goes. This is Henry V. This day is called the Feast of Crispian. He that outlives this day and comes safe home will stand a tiptoe when the day is named, and rouse him at the name of Crispian. He that shall live this day and see old age will yearly on the vigil feast his neighbors and say, tomorrow is St. Crispian. Then he will strip his sleeve and show his scars and say, these wounds I had on Crispin's day. Old men forget, yet all shall be forgot. But he'll remember with advantages what feats he did that day. Then shall our names, familiar in his mouth as household words, Harry the King, Bedford and Exeter, Warwick and Talbot, Salisbury and Gloucester, be in their flowing cups freshly remembered. This story shall be, the good man teaches son, and Crispian shall ne'er go by from this day to the ending of the world. But we in it shall be remembered, we few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother, be here ne'er so vile. This day shall gentle his condition, and gentlemen in England now abed shall think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap whilst any speaks that fought with us upon St. Crispin's day. Stu, that's a great speech. And again, it is another reminder of heroic men who fought and died and how they should be remembered.
If your majesty is remembered of it, the Welshman did good service in a garden where leeks did grow, wearing leeks in a Monmouth cap, which, as your majesty know, to this hour is an honourable badge of service. And I do believe your majesty takes no scorn to wear the leek upon St. Davy's Day.
I wear it for a memorable honour. For I am Welsh, you know, good my countrymen.